It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 195. And I am your host, Matthew, PMBigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The art of Asia. Discussing current AI markets and trends, Japan Society 5.0, rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific, and more. We thank you, the Supply Chain Wars, for coming on to the show today, coming along with the show today, being a part of the show. I'm trying to include you here as I sit in my tailor-made three-piece suit with my monocle in place, my pocket watch ticking away outside of the microphone's ears, in my soundproof room on top of a tall brick spire in the middle of Tokyo is my fleet of trusting employees scurry about the floors beneath me, trawling the internet for jewels from its deep wells, like some sort of illegal Chinese fishing fleet, sucking up all the resources from another nation's reef. How are you doing today? I spend like $1 million a day doing this thing. It's crazy why I still do it. The costs far exceed whatever Satoshi Bitcoins come rolling in as a result of my efforts here. But we stay the course. We stay the course. Indeed, we stay the course. All right. Getting that cold January 2025 breeze coming off the bay there. And I don't know what it's like where you are. Probably some weather somewhere is doing something like that. All right. Well, we got a busy day today as usual. I may have overprepared. I just thought I would start with some space news that I didn't cover, I don't believe. And space exploration is pretty good, and we should focus on it from time to time. It takes the most advanced resources, technologies, and efforts kind of known to our society to make these things happen. And when they do a good job, maybe we should give a little shout out on the podcastosphere. So this one comes to us, it was a little bit older, actually. When is it from? January 10th. Can you believe it? I'm recording this on January 16th, and I'm including information off the internet from more than 3 hours ago, where I show you some shocking video on a social media feed, and then I say, what are we going to do about it? We got to do something now. I need views. I need 1 million views. European and Japanese robotic explorer buzzes Mercury's North Pole. Coming to us from japantoday.com via the Associated Press. Space is one of those things that can rarely be politicized. Like, I don't really like the Associated Press. I've had to work with them in the past, and it just feels like most of the stuff that they're doing is written by like 9 people in some cookie cutter fashion, and it's like they probably have some AI prompting service that they're using, like a Google search. Like you start typing in and it finishes your sentence, because I don't know why you need like 9 people to write a 500-word article about American politics, but they do that there. It's a very dehumanizing aspect of how we get our information. Don't like it very much. But anyways, a spacecraft has beamed back some of the best up-close photos yet of Mercury's North Pole. The European and Japanese robotic explorer swooped as close as 295 kilometers above Mercury's night side before passing directly over the planet's North Pole. The European Space Agency released the stunning snapshots Thursday, showing the permanently shadowed craters at the top of our solar system's smallest, innermost planet. They might be looking for things like robots, aliens, or maybe something like water. We all know that it's aliens camped out there. Cameras also captured views of neighboring volcanic plains and Mercury's largest impact crater, which spans more than 1,500 kilometers. This was the 6th and final flyby for Mercury of the Bepi Colombo spacecraft since its launch in 2018. The maneuver put the spacecraft on course to enter orbit around Mercury late next year. The spacecraft holds 2 orbiters, one for Europe and the other for Japan, and that will circle the planet's poles. The spacecraft is named after late Giuseppe Bepi Colombo, a 20th century Italian mathematician who contributed to NASA's Mariner 10 mission to Mercury in the 1970s and 2 decades later to the Italian Space Agency's tethered satellite project that flew on the U.S. space shuttles. So there we go. I'll be posting pictures of this at MatthewPMBigelow.com. So if you want to see this really interesting view of Mercury with all of its impact craters, it looks like a pretty dead planet, to be honest. And but at the same time, the details of these impact craters are pretty awesome. Interesting how Earth can kind of just grow over them, or maybe you're walking through an impact crater right now, but you might not even know because things have grown over it, and like a housing development has gone in, and it just looks like it's part of the nature. But really, it's like the conclusion, the long conclusion of intense space violence delivered onto the Earth, probably demolished some sort of squirrel's habitat and it made them extinct. But now you just take a shit there. I swore I'm not supposed to swear. Not swearing. All right, next one. This is crazy. So, record 36.8 million tourists visited Japan back in 2024. Bringing us back to Earth here. Record numbers of tourists flocked to Japan last year. The country logged more than 36.8 million tourists, topping 2019's record of 32 million. Wow. This is partially thanks to government policies to promote attractions. Another factor is the cheap yen, which has plunged against other currencies over the past 3 years, making everything from a bowl of ramen to a handmade Japanese kitchen knife free. It's free. Japan has long been a bucket list destination for many people, and they also wanted. Japan has a population of 124 million people right now, and we have 36.8 million people coming in on top of it. Oddly enough, if you have a place like it mentions in this article, France, which is known to have like a population, like a tourism population of almost double that, and other things like that. And when I was touring France back in 2012, I noticed that like where the tourists gathered, I hated it. And then where the migrants were, I also thought they were kind of a nuisance. Looking back at it at the time, you don't really think about it like that. But I would go up to like a beautiful type of religious church or something like that, and I would look up at it at night and be like, wow, that's a really nice church. I mean, wow. But then a whole bunch of African type migrants would kind of like come near you and start throwing shiny helicopters up into the air to try to get you to buy them from them. So you're there to like experience this nature thing, but then you just get hounded by these like people trying to sell you glow in the dark helicopters. You're like, what? That's kind of at the time you're just like, oh, whatever. But then like you reflect back on it, it's like, you kind of ruined that for me, bud. You kind of ruined that. You photobombed it. And then of course, where everybody's just a tourist, there's no feeling of locality. So that's the other aspect of mass of peoples that gather in one place. But Japan is such like a small island nation. It's a cliche to say it, but the infrastructure is really good, but at the same time, it is pretty limited. That's why you hear about these like traffic jams that go on for like 35 kilometers. It's just because there's the parts of the country that can't handle that much traffic, and they can't really expand around it because there's nowhere to expand. So to have like 37 million extra people here in 1 year, you do kind of feel the squeeze in many places, such as I do. There's a lot of parts of Tokyo that I just can't go to anymore. And I'm in a weird position where it's like, I'm a foreigner, so what? I don't have a right in this at all. It's just an observation. I never really liked going to Shibuya before. I'd go there to play shows and do music or the occasional meetup or something like that. And I never really liked it, but now it's like, it's not even a question. It's like, they may as well like have a gate that refuses me to, like, just says no. And I live in Shinjuku, and it's like it's just out of like the swarmy swells of tourists, the swarthy swarthy swells of tourists. And even then, it's you walk 10 minutes one way, and it's just like, okay, I can't really go into any of these places. And it also attracts like weird lines, like those restaurants that get put into like somebody's very popular blog or TikTok, or like just gets picked up on social media somehow. And it's just like a restaurant that you'd never really thought of, and it's there. And then a year later, you walk past and there's like 90 tourists milling outside of it trying to get in. But then there's like 30 restaurants within a 2-minute walk around that place, and they're all empty. It's like, well, why does it have to be that one place? It's a little bit weird. A little bit weird. But for the good parts of the Japanese economy, the tourists injected 8 trillion yen in 2024. Oh, that first article that I was reading for the tourists here was from JapanToday.com, and this one's coming at us from the Asahi Shimbun Asia and Japan Watch. And it says, spending by foreign visitors in Japan reached 8.13 trillion yen in 2024. That's $51 billion, a 53% increase from the previous year, and surpassing the 8 trillion yen mark for the first time. The number of visitors to the country also reached an all-time high, it says, and spending by international tourists in the fourth quarter of 2024 increased by 37.3% compared to the same period the year before. The figure surged by 90.5% compared to the same year in 2019, the year before the COVID nonsense hit us. So just incredible amounts of money being poured in. But like I said, it's not really distributed through society. It's like at these very kind of bottlenecked inflection points. Very different from like your average spending from like when you're just a regular citizen. You spread that spend around in your local neighborhoods, but the tourists come in and they just like psh, and bzz, and then bleh. That's kind of my view on it. But it's incredible that these things are happening. Let's move on from Japan and take a look at something else. Alrighty, let's take a look at the supply chain wars. Die for the war, everybody move. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Just to connect this into the last segment there, China saw booming exports in 2024 as Trump tariffs loom. They always have to put China's economy in a negative light. Look, it's going to fall apart. But China's exports surged to a record high in 2024, providing a much-needed boost for the economy. Overseas shipments represented a rare bright spot for Beijing last year, as sluggish domestic consumption and a prolonged crisis in the property sector dragged on growth. Is this from AP as well? Yes, AFP, Agence France Presse. It's the Frenchies writing this stuff. But they always, I'm not sure what the property market, China's economy is just not understood. We don't have any real indicators of what's actually going on there. And I watched a lot of YouTube documentaries in China last year, and it's like, seems pretty good. And this isn't propaganda nonsense. It seems pretty good. I mean, parts rough, but I look at Canada, I look at the US, I look at Europe, a lot of rough stuff going on there too. So I'm not, this to me like reeks of propaganda, but here we go. And quote, in 2024, China's total exports exceeded 25 trillion yuan for the first time, an increase of 7.1% year on year. Now, what is 25 trillion yuan? That's $3.5 trillion. Whoa. That's insane. And imports rose to just over 18 trillion yuan. Combined trade swelled 5% to reach a record 43.5 trillion yuan, said Weng Liangjun, Vice Minister of the Customs Administration. Quote, China's position as the world's largest goods trading nation has become even more secure, Wang added. Yes, your name is Wang. We get it. Officials' customs data showed Monday that exports in December jumped 10.7% year on year, comfortably outperforming a forecast of 7.5% in a Bloomberg survey of economists. So I'm going to leave it there. I don't mean to dwell too much on these economic matters, just we're beginning the year, and I keep hearing, China, but India, look at India. And I look at India and I'm like, you guys have a great economy, it seems, but your country looks like just terrible, like 95% of the time. Trash everywhere. Just brutal. China, not as bad. Like, it looks far superior, cosmetically. And I watched quite a bit. And I'm not someone who just watches YouTubers that like promote things. I like watching YouTubers for travel because I can't travel right now. I have 2 young kids. But they're the people that just walk around with a camera and you can see what's going on in the background. So I'm pretty good at analyzing mise en scène because I have watched a lot of movies and I studied film, quite a lot of film in university. So I know what I'm looking at when I'm looking through a camera. And it's just like you compare the two. It's like there's even a challenge. Like, okay, if you think I'm just being like a hater and a promoter of these two things, go on to Google Maps and drop the little man that you can do the street view in. You can't really do a lot of street view in China, but you can drop little man in there. Drop little man on Google Maps into China and drop little man into India. The challenge is which one has way more garbage on the streets all the time. Is it the China one or is it the India one? I mean, you can zoom out of India, of the world on Google Maps, and you can just select little man and drop him in at random anywhere on India. And if you can find in that street view, a view of India that has no trash anywhere, you win the game. And nobody's won. So anyways, there's that. Next, we're going to take a look at some drones. This comes to us from JapanForward.com, and I quite like their writing styles. They've recently redone their website. It's Japan-Forward.com. I interviewed the lead editor, I guess we can call him, Yasu Naito, a few years ago now, maybe 6-7 years ago, and good dude. This is the English arm of the Sankei Shimbun, which is known as like like left-wingers will say that's a crazy right-wing rag, but it's like, well, they have SDG goals, okay? Drones at the forefront of the self-defense forces modernization efforts. Amid recruitment challenges and evolving warfare, the Ministry of Defense is investing heavily into drones to bolster Japan's deterrence capabilities. Are they? On January 12th, multiple government officials revealed that the Ministry of Defense will introduce approximately 310 small attack drones in fiscal year 2026. These drones are designed to destroy enemy vehicles and vessels equipped with explosives for suicide attacks. The drones will be the first of their kind owned by the SDF forces. Heavy use of drones on both sides of the Russia-Ukraine conflict influenced the Ministry of Defense's decision. Operational tests have already been conducted using Israeli, Australian, and Spanish drones. However, the MOD will finalize the model selection through a general competitive bidding process. This is my issue with Japan sourcing Israeli or foreign drones is because of the supply chain wars. So the reason I put that economic data from China, just to sort of go back there for a second, is because the position of the Japan What podcast is that we are in a supply chain war. And during COVID, China used COVID as an excuse to promote the lockdowns of economies, its rival economies, in a way to stymie their growth or to hamper their operations so that China could take advantage of a weakened rival and take over more of the world's supply chains. And China's One Belt and One Road policy, or its New Silk Road policy, or its Belt and Road Initiative, however you want to call it, relies on a stronger China-focused supply chain dominated maritime routes worldwide. And to do that, you weaken your enemy. So that's one of the reasons why I believe how COVID was weaponized in another way was through the supply chains. And we saw the supply chain break down during that time. So China comes back with $3.5 trillion export in 1 year. Okay. So it kind of proves that they are on the up and up in terms of winning in the supply chain wars. And not only is it important for China's economy, but it's also important for China's technological and cashless ambitions. So the supply chain routes will be controlled by satellites and will have AI and IoT capabilities within the big ships, and then they will try to market these ships and then the telecommunications networks from Huawei and so on into the countries that they're expanding into, so that the new countries that they're cooperating with will use Chinese telecommunications equipment and then supply the citizens there with Chinese-made smartphones. And then so the Chinese people use their smartphones to conduct commerce with local residents, business owners, suppliers, and so on in other countries, and create like an internal loop using the renminbi as a medium of exchange via Huawei's satellite systems and via things like WeChat or Alipay as intermediaries. And so to do that, you just exclude the dollar, expand your own supply chain routes. And furthermore, with the Belt and Road Initiative, China is building fully automated ports in a lot of these countries. I talked to people about this, and they were like, well, yeah, but all those countries are just become indebted to China. Well, yeah, but China builds up these ports, and now you don't have protests or union workers or people hampering the progress of your technological ambitions, interfering with your operations there. So these are major aspects of the supply chain war. And one of the few ways to kind of calculate it is through how much money is now moving through those supply chains. And China, with its $3.5 trillion export and import volume, whatever it was, that's a real indication that they are, in fact, maybe not as poorly received around the world as we are programmed to believe in the G7. And that's like the other aspect of the supply chain war, is that there's the G7 side and then there's the BRICS side. And the BRICS side are making major strides with infrastructure, and as well as offering a non-weaponized medium of exchange through BRICS agreements and so on like that. So there's that. Now, with the drone news here from Japan, Japan is using Israeli drones. So this goes back to the supply chain as well. Well, how is Israel is Israel reliable right now? Because it's been mired in an immense amount of conflict. Do they have the supply chain capabilities to fund Japan's SDF forces with drones? They're not supposed to be weaponized. And I covered this maybe 5 or 6 months ago. There was a major kerfuffle that involved the usage of social media to weaponize protesters against Japanese importers of drones to interfere with Japan's acquisition of weaponized drone technology. I covered it. I saw it. I didn't know this, but I live pretty much right next to a aero defense company for Japan. I don't know how else to say it. They were kind of behind this importation of Israeli drones. And then what happened was these Palestinian protesters started protesting and waving giant Palestinian flags outside of this. It doesn't look like a big building, but it's aeronautics, or it's involved with the Ministry of Japan's importation of Israeli drones. And then they tried to weaponize like this protest by filming it and putting it on social media, and then use that to apply international pressure from Palestinian sympathetic groups worldwide to force Japan to stop purchasing drones from Israeli companies. They did it twice. They did it, the one time I saw it was the second time. They did it a previous time, and that appeared to work. The second pressure campaign didn't appear to work. But these are the aspects of the supply chain wars, and this I'm going to cover this aspect of weaponizing people via social media to influence how goods move and flow through our supply chain wars. So this is obviously happening. It's obviously happening. Though using social media to weaponize mobs to affect change is happening, and they're basically useful idiots for a wider cause. You could look at the George Floyd protests as weaponized mobs, and also the whole anti-right wing mania that was exhibited during Trump's first term, where you would have like 3 or 4 people holding like a prayer meeting at a gazebo, and they would say, "Hey, come to our prayer meeting at a gazebo. We're Trumpers." And left-wing people on Twitter would be like, they're holding a protest, and they'd put a hashtag there, and then suddenly like 15,000 people would surround like this group of 4 people, and they're like, "You're Nazis," and it was just like some prayer meeting, and the person hosting the prayer meeting was like a half Japanese, half white American person. I'm just interested in how technology works, which is how I know about this kind of movement. And so the idea that we can use all of this technology, and that's a big part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, is to solidify their moat of social media to prevent it from being weaponized by outside forces, like what we just saw in Japan with the drones from Israel. It's crazy. It's crazy when you go down these rabbit holes. I was walking like to pick up my kids from the nursery, and after work, and I just walk past and I see like this protest on this narrow street near my house. And I'm like, there's a giant Palestinian flag, and there were some regular people there, but I also saw 2 agents. I knew they were agents just because of the way they were dressed and their coiffed hair and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I took pictures and zoomed in on all the faces. And I went down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, wow, they're trying to garner Palestinian sympathizers to affect how Japan acquires its advanced military technology. This is crazy. You're only hearing it here. Nobody else knows about it. It sounds crazy. I sound crazy to myself saying this, but that's what the evidence suggested. And more so than just suggested. So we have China making its own drones. We have China being a manufacturer for the whole world. And then Japan's answer to this is to spend, what, $20 million on some drones, 310 small attack drones? Playing the drones trump card. The ministry allocated 3.2 billion yen, or approximately $20 million, in its fiscal 25 budget for the procurement of drones. It intends to deploy them to ground self-defense infantry units to strengthen defense capabilities in areas such as the Nansei Islands. The Nansei Islands is the kind of the island chain between Okinawa and Taiwan, and was seen as a place where a lot of territorial incursions occur on behalf of China's Coast Guard into Japan's territorial waters. And I keep saying this, but in case anyone from the Ministry of Defense is listening, the drones are a great first step, but once they blow up, you have to replace them. You also need missiles, you need torpedoes, and this is my ultimate suggestion, lasers, high-powered optical lasers. And when the Chinese drones or Chinese ships start coming into the territorial waters, you find a way to light them up. And it's not called aggressive defense measures. It's called friendly light shows for our for visitors, for unannounced visitors. And that would be a way to deter them. And so it's like the Chinese are known for flashing lasers, so why don't we? And then you don't have to replace them. You just have to power them. So it's just an act of deterrence. And if they keep pushing that boundary, then you know how far they're willing to go. If there's an element of deterrence there that doesn't involve an aspect of kinetic response. The introduction of drones is part of the unmanned asset defense capability outlined in Japan's security documents. The ministry plans to invest $1 trillion or $6.3 billion over 5 years from fiscal 2023 in drone deployment and related initiatives. So there we go. Hopefully that they get more serious about this. They are getting more serious about it, but I'm not sure what types of overall strategies they're going to be able to employ. We'll see. This next one here just kind of links in thematically. This comes to us from Ars Technica. don't know what's going on with my voice here. Air Force research, how to use social media to control people like drones. Oh, really? So that thing I was just talking about that sounded crazy now is fine because it comes to us in the form of some sort of news organization, Ars Technica. Facebook isn't the only organization conducting research into how attitudes are affected by social media. The Department of Defense has invested millions of dollars over the past few years investigating social media, social networks, and how information spreads across them. While Facebook and Cornell University research manipulated what individuals saw on social media streams, military-funded research, including projects funded by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, Social Media and Strategic Communications Program, has looked primarily into how messages from influential members of social media networks propagate. One study funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory has gone a step further. A less investigated problem is once you've identified the network, how do you manipulate it toward an end, said Warren Dixon, a PhD in electrical and computer engineering and director of the University of Florida's Nonlinear Controls and Robotics Research Group. Dixon was the principal investigator on Air Force Research Laboratory funded project, which published its findings in February under a paper entitled Containment Control for Social Network with State-Dependent Connectivity. The research demonstrated that the mathematical principles used to control groups of autonomous robots can be applied to social networks in order to control human behavior. If properly calibrated, the mathematical models developed by Dixon and his fellow researchers could be used to sway the opinion of social networks towards a desired set of behaviors. Perhaps in sort of in concert with other related articles. I'm going to leave it there. So that's why China doesn't want our social media networks inside of its country. And that's why China wants its social media networks inside of our countries. One way that this could be used would be if this is just a wargaming here. We're just putting pieces on the table and talking about it in such a manner, in a theoretical manner. So if there's a conflict that erupts between China and Taiwan, and America responds militarily, America might get Japan and the Philippines to come to Taiwan's assistance, okay? So maybe that happens. This is the idea. A flashpoint occurs, and China and America start exchanging missiles, bullets. They start fighting each other. Okay, Japan to the rescue. But because there's about 30,000 North Koreans that live in Japan, mostly in Kyoto, what if at that time North Korea sends a message to their social media accounts, hey, your dear leader wants you to do X, Y, and Z. And this would be to cause a disturbance that would distract Japan's response going to help America in the Taiwan Straits. Now, it could be something like blowing up a building. That immediately comes to mind. It could be something like a knife attack on a public residential area with people waving North Korean flags. That would create a response. But what if it's just like something more innocuous, like 50 boats start circling around in some sort of bay near Kyoto, and they're waving North Korean flags, and they're shouting on their phones on like some X Live broadcast, we're coming to get you, we're coming to get you, we're coming to get you. So that wouldn't put them in necessarily any danger where Japan would have to respond with force, but Japan would have to respond to this odd, sudden behavior going on in its national, in its sovereign waters. So maybe they wouldn't be able to send as many ships over there. But what if North Korea also started acting up in the Yellow Sea in Korea, north of South Korea's left, and on the Japan Sea side, north of South Korea's right? So then you would have South Korea not being. So they could kind of disturb response rates using social media, and so that would be one way to do it. And nobody would understand what's happening. Just all of a sudden, all this crazy North Korea stuff starts happening in these waters. And what do we do about it? We have to respond somehow. So it would detract from South Korea's and Japan's ability to respond to an incursion or a flashpoint or some sort of scuffle that breaks out in the Taiwan Straits. But would American or G7 style networks be able to infiltrate China on such a level? No, not at all, because it's closed off. So we see this aspect of social media that's being seriously considered by DARPA, that created the internet, and also maybe Facebook, to be used as kind of like a psyop to control people in real time. And it's been going on for like 10 years now. It started in the year like 2006 with flash mobs, where people would just be like, hey, everyone, let's get an orange hat, and we'll meet on the corner of 53rd and Marshall Street, and we'll run around the corner, and people will be like, what? And we'll film it, and they'll be like, what? What's happening? But it's a flash mob. It's just fun. But then it went into like racial attacks and political attacks, and it's just going further and further. And now we have these researchers from universities trying to use the same principles that they're applying onto drone swarm technology, it seems, onto the psychographical profiles that are built on all of us on social media platforms. Die for the war, everybody move. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Let's look at Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime.
All right, the supply chain wars take longer than I thought they would. They always do. They're so complex. And it's like figuring it out at the same time, because my team on the floors below me are useless at half the stuff I ask them to do. They come at me with like CNN articles. I'm like, rubbish, get out of here. I want to play a song that I made with an AI program from Suno. And I've been making these, I want to call it an album called Sonnets for the Damned. And I wanted to write songs about the drone operators and the people fighting the drones in Russia and Ukraine, because most music written these days is for like TikTok 15-second videos, and we don't have like a cultural representation, and I'm just too busy. I used to do a lot of music live and write a lot of music and play a lot of it. I just don't have the time anymore, and AI has been there for me to provide a music making medium to express these ideas that I have. What I did last week I played a song from the perspective of somebody using a drone. So the FPV goggles and the little game controller, and then you hunt down your enemy and blow them up. And the idea here is that the drone hunters become desensitized to it, but they also feel like AI is going to take their job. So they would prefer not to just become so desensitized to killing people with drones. But then there's also this idea of like, well, is AI going to become a sinful machine because we're going to allow it to kill people? Like, that's kind of what's going on in their heads. And today's drone song is about the drone, I believe it's the drone hunters. And these are the people that are responding to the drones. So I've seen some videos posted onto X and some other places of like a drone, like it's from the perspective, like a soldier might have a GoPro camera on their helmet, and they're barreling down the back of this dusty road, and like there's a drone trying to come at them and hunt them, and like they're shooting at it, and sometimes they hit the drone, but sometimes the drone hits them and blows them all up. And then the other aspect is like a guy knows a drone is hunting him, and he's like crawling under a tank and trying to run behind a tree, and then like he might get lucky and he picks up a big stone or a branch and throws it at the drone, knocks the drone out and it blows up, or misses the drone and the drone, boom, hits him. All these weird kind of scenarios that are totally new to modern warfare. So today's, we're going to begin the AI segment. This is Japan Society 5.0, but we're going to use this as a way to connect the previous segment into this segment. I'm trying to connect segments together here with this drone song. So I got AI to write a bunch of sonnets, and then I refined the sonnets with prompting, and eventually it becomes this point where I'm not sure which part of the sonnet is mine and which part of the sonnet is the AIs, because it just time goes by and you're like, was that me or was that the AI? And this is a song that gets really dynamic. So that's another reason I wanted to play this song, is that some of these AI songs they take dynamics to like this crazy level. And that's what we're going to do. Should I read the sonnets? Nah, I read the sonnets last week. I didn't really like reading them. So let's begin the song.
Alone I crouch, my bullets all but spent, my platoon lost, whether dead or alive. In trees I hide, cold and with little bent, as overhead the drone begins to dive. Its hum persists, both whiny and unforgiving. It hunts me through the leaves where blooms arise. The drone with deadly cargo seeks my living. A man or I craft my quick demise. I grasp a branch, the earth beneath me shakes. I swing with might, the rotors hit with force. The drone veers off, then bursts in flames and breaks. Its wreckage burns behind the mossy course. I stare and wonder through the smoke and blast. Was it a man or AI that sealed my past? 6 months later, the truck jolts down a dry and dusty track. As heat beats down the air of blinding haze, my rifle spits, but none of my shots back. The drone that chases through the desert's maze. The bombs toss me, my aim a shifting gas. While through the dust, the drone stays hot in chase. My war mates grunt, their voices filled with stress, while I can't strike the target lost in space. The sun melts stone beneath the searing breath. The drone draws near, a shadow in the heat. I fire again, but no, it's set for death. A flash, a roar, and then the end complete. My final thought, a patriot in this war. If AI killed me, what was I fighting for?
All right, and that's the song. Wow. I think that last line was mine. If AI killed me, and what was I fighting for? The AI writers don't get the severity of the meaning here, but like a patriot in this war, you go into a war and you're like, for my country, for my country, for my people. And then just some automated robot, because you're like, is that drone operated by a man, or is it just running some sort of software automated kill program? You're trying to shoot it, it's dodging your bullets. You run out of bullets, and then boom, it's over. And the last thing you thought before you died, it's like, what am I? What is this? What's going on here? I feel that a lot these days, looking at what's going on here. And we're going to get into it, because this is the Japan Society 5.0 segment. We got a lot of things to do. We're going to look through some of this stuff. So by 2028, 60% of Japanese companies will automate tasks with AI agents. Gartner, Japan. This comes to us from atmarket.itmedia.co.jp. I do a lot of this research for the Japan Society 5.0 in Japanese and use AI software to translate it. Gartner Japan has released its latest views on AI agents, stating that companies should view AI agents as a key strategic element for the future and take on new challenges at the right time. A little issue there. The company hypothesizes that by 2028, 60% of Japanese companies will automate tasks related to mechanical business operations using current AI agents. AI agents take a variety of forms, but they're going to be like software engineers. They're going to be lawyers. They're going to be a whole bunch of things, and you'll be able to access them in real time whenever you need, so you don't have to wait for it. I'm currently I'm wondering like the future of private English education. Where's the line between AI and the teacher? And then how does the teacher use the AI instead of the AI using the teacher? Because how do you know you're not being out of a sort of pressure campaign being pushed for selection without realizing the bias that's kind of going into it? Because a lot of these helper agents that I use these days, Grok or ChatGPT, I trust Grok more than I trust ChatGPT. But I use them both. But at the same time, if we're just like directly copying and pasting all the time from the results of AI prompting, we're going to be embedding the bias of those companies directly into students' heads. But then if I edit that, then I'm editing according to my bias as well. There's this weird thing. And so am I going to be quarreling with AI agents in my computer where they're like, hey, you can't take that part out. We're not going to let you. You can't just copy and paste that part. You have to also copy and paste this part, or we're not going to let you. And we're going to review the document that you're using because we're monitoring your computer in real time. And if you take that part out, well, we're going to automatically send you to the automated HR department. And then the HR department will pop into like your workspace on your computer and be like, hey, you're breaking company policy by including this crazy information that needs to be in there. And you're like, well, why are we putting this information into their heads? Well, we have to. I'm the automated bot telling you to do that. Just do it. It's coming. It's coming. Moving on, using artificial intelligence to predict the effectiveness of chemotherapy for stomach cancer. A research team from the Riken Institute analyzed the characteristics of immune activity within tumors from genomic mutations and RNA expressions data of gastric cancer patients and succeeded in using AI to predict the effectiveness of each chemotherapy regimen. This comes to us from the monoist.itmedia.co.jp. Riken is like Japan's advanced research agency. And now they announced that it had succeeded in analyzing the characteristics of immune activity within tumors from genomic mutations and genomic mutations and RNA expression data of gastric cancer patients and using AI to predict the effectiveness. This is the result of joint research between blah, blah, blah. In this study, we performed whole genome sequencing and RNA sequencing analysis of advanced gastric cancer tissues collected before the start of chemotherapy and investigated the correlation between information on gene mutations and gene expression in cancer cells and cancer tissue and the actual effects of chemotherapy. As a result, gastric cancer driver gene mutations, polymorphisms in drug metabolizing enzymes, MSI status, EBV, or Helicobacter pylori infection, etc., were not found to be associated with chemotherapy efficacy, whereas specific patterns of copy number abnormalities in cancer cells were associated with chemotherapy efficacy. I'm not going to go read into it too much, but I'll be posting a picture of MatthewPMBigelow.com. If you're involved in biotech and and stuff like that. This type of paper result would be very important for you. Yeah, and we're seeing already like AI with imaging analysis. Some like Twitter is X. You post your medical imaging data up onto Twitter, and it will tell you what's happening. And somebody went to their doctor where they thought their wrist was broken, and they took an X-ray, and the doctor was like, "No, it's not broken. It's just strained." Put it into X, and it's like, "Yeah, it's broken. It's obviously broken. You have a tiny break right here." So the doctor couldn't see it, but the AI could. And this is because of pixelization. They can really zoom in close on where the pixelization of one thing ends and begins. So if there's like a break, but it might not be easy to see visually, but according to the pixel, it's like bone, not bone, bone, but it might be very, very minor. Well, it knows that not because it's looking at the picture, but because of the differentiation between that sequence of pixels before and after that sequence of pixels. And that's how it's able to analyze medical imagery. And then, of course, within that pixelization, it can cross-reference it to medical databases and be like, it's this type of break, or it's not a break, but it might be something like this, based on that type of pixel correlation. It's interesting. Once you realize it's pixels, the mind opens up to what we're actually dealing with here. Not images, pixels. Short one here too. The government considering granting patent rights of AI developers and compensation for using AI in inventions. Again, from the Nikkei.com. The government is considering granting patent rights to inventions that use AI and so on. It is believed that this will increase research funding in the field of AI, encourage further technological innovation, and lead to the development of AI-related industries. It's behind a paywall, but Japan is known for producing a lot of patents and a lot of research, but it's known as well as being technically a major producer of AI research. But I remember looking at this is quite a while now, but maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and like 80% was America, and like 7% was China, EU, Canada, because Canada has this Toronto contingency of AI research. It's where it kind of hid for 30 or 40 years before reemerging in 2015-ish. And EU. So, and Japan is in there as well. It's like this, it's in the top, but it's also like less than 10%. So by incentivizing AI research, they might incentivize, they might garner a better reputation as a nature of AI producing technology. And I hope they do, because I don't like being reliant on the Israelis for our drones. If we're going to be using drones, why are we using Israeli drones? Japan can't make its own drones. We have to use the Israeli drones. Israel's pretty far away. And are they reliable? I know that we're in part of this G7 team, and that's fine. It is what it is. I don't really have a say in it, but it's like, here's this a really important technology, and we're going to import it from all the way across the world through a network of rival supply chains and areas that have recently have lots of conflict and war and explosions, and their economies might be plummeting soon as a result. We're not sure if it's going to be stable in the long term. But this technology is so important, we need it now. Okay. Make it yourself, or you're doomed, or you're fudged with a giant fudge-sicle in your fudge tunnel. That leads me into the next article, into facial recognition. Launch of Proof Face. No, Proof Face. Launch of, not Poo Face, Proof Face. Launch of Proof Face by Sesame, a facial recognition smart lock using facial recognition AI technology, Proof Face. They didn't consult the the native speakers for this name. Look, it's proof of your face. Proof Face. Okay. There's another company in Japan called Homo Sausage. And homo just means not gay, but it's like a word for meaning one. It has to do with like that scientific prefix. And then the other one is cream colon, and it's like COLLON. It's like some sort of snack, but it's like a tiny cylinder, white cylinder, cookie cylinder filled with cream. And you're like, well, it is like eating a cream colon. You're right. So Proof Face Headquartered in Chiyoda-ku, Tokyo. Their service is a facial recognition to unlock smart locks using Sesame Smart Lock provided by Candy House Japan. Proof Face by Sesame is a service that turns Kotofure's facial recognition AI technology, Proof Face, into an app. Now we get into the details. This is from Japanese sites, so they often repeat the same thing 7 or 8 times in the first 4 paragraphs just to really hammer that in. I hate it. Sometimes I get ChatGPT to rewrite it, but that takes too much time. Proof Face into an app that unlocks the smart lock by performing facial recognition images captured by a smartphone or tablet camera. By combining an Android tablet or smartphone with Sesame, it is possible to significantly reduce the initial costs and installation costs that have been a barrier to adoption until now. In addition, the monthly usage fee is the lowest in Japan for a facial recognition smart lock, according to the site's research, making this a service that can be used by a wider range of customers. Now, I included this because they're not trying to provide like the hardware. The hardware is what's in your pocket. It's your phone or a tablet, and you can just, there's so many of these, you just put them up places, and now they act as a smart lock solution. This would not be good in a high security area, but if you're running a small firm with like 20 or 30 people, and there's like a place that has a lock on it, and you don't always want to be getting the key to people, well, you just set this up, and now you don't have some extraordinary complex technological system going on inside of your office, and you can just take it down whenever you want. The monthly plan is 2,500 yen a month for a number of total of 20 registered users and 2 devices. And then it goes up to enterprise solutions, which is 20,000 yen a month, maybe $150. And you get 200 registered users and 50 devices. So this is, of course, a cloud-based solution. So they just package it according to that and sell it out at the value. So that way you don't have to rely on key cards. Key cards are great if you have a management system for them, but a lot of startups, I mean, are you supposed to always just be making key cards for your employees? So this type of thing might be useful for that. Moving on to the next thing. Another corporation using a similar technology for their streamlining efforts. Shimizu Corporation introduces face recognition smart locks linked to attendance management systems to construction sites nationwide, expanding to offices for unmanned reception and conference room reservations as well. So this is for the construction industry. Next, Opfit, a company that develops security cameras for gyms, has published useful information summarizing the safety management and operational efficiency of hotel fitness gyms that are being adopted by city hotels and luxury resort hotels. This has to do with just gyms now using AI cameras for management and safety. I'm not going to go too much into it. I just kind of wanted to provide an overview that AI cameras are expanding rapidly in Japan through a variety of services and industries and sectors. This is interesting because we now just accept it as fact. But when I started this podcast in late 2019 with the original co-host, Tom, we were mostly doing music and culture and stuff because it was pre-COVID and that stuff was going on a lot more. And I was working at SoftBank at the time as an AI researcher and teacher, as a teacher researching AI topics for about 150 people inside of the company there, including the VPs. And when I would talk about AI to people, I would get laughed at and scoffed. Oh, AI, that's so stupid. I mean, what is it? It's going to become our friend and then kill us? Or, oh, that stuff never works. I mean, I saw this thing once and it's just, and then like 5 years later, it's everywhere. The rate of it, and I knew it was going to happen, which is why I kept doing it. I'm like, you guys don't know what's coming. It's coming. It's already here. It's not in the future. It's already here. Next version of AI camera. No violation, but they were caught. AI camera installed on bus causes parking violation crackdown. carview.yahoo.co.jp. The spread of the latest technology, including AI, is having a major impact on the world of cars. In America, where new systems are popular, even parking violation detection using AI cameras has been introduced. However, because we are in a transitional period, there still seems to be a lot of problems. Unexpected troubles that come with the introduction of new systems. I'm going to summarize it here. So this is a Japanese researcher writing about some stuff that's happening in New York. And AI cameras have also been introduced onto buses in Japan, and for the sake of, or for the monitoring of whether construction companies are operating within the limits or within the guidelines of where they can operate, like in terms of occupying municipal land or how much land they're taking up or whether they have permits or not. So these cameras in the side of the buses, just when they go past construction sites, will video them and then send that video data back to the city somewhere, and then they will review the documents to make sure that they're following the proper guidelines so that you don't do construction violations. And previously, like, you'd have people going around doing that, but there's fewer people, and they don't want to hire these people because that takes too much money. So you just put these cameras in the sides of buses, and it's happening in New York too. So what I want to say is, this is a common theme on the show these days, is that the AI revolution is an unseen revolution. It's in the bus, and the bus is a snitch. It's a snitch bus. The bus is going around the town snitching on you. And before, you would have like people come up and there'd be some sort of formality, but now you're just a manager on this construction site and a bus goes by. It's like, is that the bus that's taking pictures of me? I don't know. I can't see the AI camera installed on the side of this bus. I don't know what's going on. Even if I can see the AI on this, the camera on the side of the bus, is that an AI camera? Like, how would I know? So yeah, there's this unseen revolution going on around us, and it's happening in New York as well. And so what happened here was that New York installed these AI cameras on the buses to prevent or to monitor and issue tickets to people who are parked in bus lanes. So New Yorkers are commonly seen as like rude people, and they just park wherever they want. And so the bus has to get around them. So they install these cameras on the buses to find people who were violating bus lanes. Apparently, like, the city sent out like 3,500 tickets to violators, but over 700 of them or so were not in violation of being parked in a bus lane. So there's this idea where the bus is incorrectly snitching on you because you haven't developed the technology properly and implemented it properly, or you set the threshold for too low, because you can set a threshold. This car is 80% probable to be parked in a bus lane incorrectly. Okay, 80%. Well, that's pretty high. We'll send them a ticket. So New York is also a very corrupt state, and they're like a bunch of socialist, crazy people there at the moment, and they need money because a lot of money is leaving New York. So if you can squeeze the taxpayer for as much money as possible without them having to realize that they're being taxed by a new snitch bus network, then sure, that sounds great. If we don't have to be culpable for the consequences of our implementations, then that's what we'll do as insane socialists. So they are doing that, but apparently, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people were like, "What is this? We were not in violation at all, but I'm receiving these tickets." So the government AI, it's like a corrupt government official avatar being installed into the side of a bus. And you don't even realize it's there, but there's like some lazy bureaucrat in a city office somewhere just issuing tickets willy-nilly to up his or her ticket issuance rate to maybe get a promotion into some sort of czarist position as like the director of transportation of New York by ill-gotten means. Who knows? Anyways, next story. I've been focusing a lot on basically three forms of AI: self-driving cars, AI cameras, facial recognition is part of AI cameras, and also like warfare would be another part of it. But I think the next form of it's going to be video conferencing, because it incorporates what a lot of offices need and spend a lot of capital on. So like one AI conference system that will have a high accuracy for taking notes and notations, and a high accuracy for providing translations and so on, and other things like that. So this comes to us from unite.ai. Cynthia Synthesia raises $180 million Series D funding to transform enterprise AI video communications. So this is the world's leading AI-powered video communications platform announced the successful close of all this money. The Synthia is evaluated at $2.1 billion, and it says this new investment will help us develop a new generation of AI-powered video experiences that are interactive, real-time, and personalized, offering possibilities unimaginable when we founded the company in 2017. We're excited to bring these experiences to our more than 60,000 customers. And so we're going to have personal, they want to build things like AI avatar, AI screen recorder, AI video assistant, multilingual video player, live collaboration. I see this being a major thing moving forward. And looking back at the past 5 years, if my predictions are pretty solid, and they are, we can expect more and more companies, because you'll be able to have an AI agent as part of this software. So if you're making like an advertising campaign and you're wondering about the legality about some of the terms that you want to use or include, you'd have like a lawyer there on hand, and it would inform you whether or not you're within the law or not, et cetera, et cetera. Moving on, Toyota and NVIDIA partner to secure in-vehicle AI technology necessary for next-generation self-driving cars or vehicles. On January 6th, Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, announced a partnership with Toyota Motor Corporation to create a next-generation vehicle network during a keynote speech at the Consumer Electronics Show at 2025, the world's largest technology trade fair held in Las Vegas, Nevada. NVIDIA has a wealth of learning data necessary for autonomous driving and also has AI chips for inference. In autonomous driving, AI distinguishes whether the car in front of is a passenger car or truck or a person or a bicycle, but prediction is also necessary. And so basically, Toyota and NVIDIA are moving closer together to develop self-driving vehicle computers, incorporating NVIDIA-based AI into more and more Toyota vehicles. So big announcement there. Bridgestone signs partnership agreement with Higashiomi City regarding autonomous driving services. So when we think about the expansion of industry, there's all these peripheral things that happen as well, like with computers in the 90s. The speakers were terrible, so the peripheral speakers that everybody had on their desktops, those sold like hotcakes. Dongles for MacBooks, all these kind of peripheral, even audio interfaces for recording music at home in home studios, that's like a peripheral device. So if we didn't have powerful USB-C MacBooks and stuff like that, you'd probably have almost no podcasts. There'd just be, these days you just take like a tiny audio interface, USB-C cable to your computer, hit the record button, and you can make a podcast. But 15, 20 years ago, there was no such ways to do it so easily. You really need to be like a gearhead. But anyways, this agreement is to equip Bridgestone's next generation tire air-free that does not require air filling for the city's self-driving services and its green slow mobility initiatives operated by Higashiomi City. It's also being used to verify functions as well as to cooperate and collaborate to support mobility in the local community. Listen to this name. The self-driving service, Okue Genji Keiryu Car, operated by Higashiomi City, operates from the roadside station Okue Genji Keiryu no Sato to ensure the flow of people and goods in the mountainous region where the population is rapidly aging. Roadside stations are located near the border between Shiga and Mie prefectures and play a major role as places of rest for people traveling between the two prefectures, as well as being important base facilities that support the lives of local residents by providing disaster prevention, medical care, and administrative functions. And so it goes on from there. But I'll be taking a picture of this air-free tire, and you can check it out at MatthewPMBigelow.com. But interesting. So in this case, with the peripheral addition, it's like these self-driving cars might not be able to maintain themselves. They don't drive very slow, and they mainly follow set paths. So you don't need to have these rugged tires on them. So a tire company is going to develop tires specifically for these needs. So it's like this new market that's opening up, like a side market, an eddy or a stream alongside the torrent of information. Last one for self-driving cars, and I'm going to summarize this one as well, but I'll be including the article up at MatthewPMBigelow.com if you're interested. A man who tried to steal a fully automated driving car was arrested by the autonomous car's defense system. So this comes as like a Waymo, which is a Google thing, and they've launched some fleets in America. Apparently, this guy gets in the car, and he tries to just move into the driver's seat and start driving. But the car was like, no, and it records your face and can contact the police. But in the future, it will just drive you to the police station and lock the doors and like start honking and like it'll probably call the police station ahead of time and let them know you're coming. And it will take pictures of you for your biometric registration and send that information to the police station in real time. So the police will just wait for the cars to deliver criminals to them. Automated criminal delivery services coming to you via Google soon. So that's going to be Japan Society 5.0 for today. A whole bevy of topics there. And it does factor into the supply chain wars. Why wouldn't it? Everything else is.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face.
Whoa.
It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime.
Including the police.
We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are.
You must take this medicine.
AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities.
You have no
helping
job
us
now.
Enjoy more fulfilling lives.
Buy. Consume.
Society 5.0, for the betterment of human lives.
We're going to end the show on this note.
Stupid goddamn of the week. Stupid goddamn SGOTW.
Haneda Airport seizes a record 15 kilograms of cocaine from single passenger. January 15th, from the Mainichi Shimbun, Japan's national daily since 1922. Customs authorities at Tokyo's Haneda Airport have seized 15 kilograms of cocaine from a single airline passenger, a record for Japan. Customs officers found the cocaine, worth an estimated street value of 372 million yen, or $2.4 million, concealed in 15 candy boxes inside a suitcase in the possession of a 25-year-old Canadian man. Canada representing, you idiot. Imagine coming in Japan with 15 kilograms of cocaine. The man, who said he works in the construction industry, arrived at Haneda Airport on December 21st, and the cocaine was discovered during a routine customs inspection, and he was arrested early the following morning. The Haneda branch of Tokyo Customs filed a criminal complaint with prosecutors on January 8th, and the prosecutors have since indicted him. The reason why you know that there's no cocaine consumption in amongst Japan's highest authorities is that it was 15 kilograms. Now, if it was something like 13.5 or 13.2, there might be some skimming at the top. That's the way corrupt governments do it. This would be like 2.9 tons of drugs found by police. It's like, well, where'd the other 0.1 ton go then, guys? Because, I mean, come on. But there we go. So if you are from another country, don't try to smuggle 15 kilograms of cocaine into Japan. Doesn't matter if you're from Canada, Bangladesh, Kuala Lumpur, Argentina, Equatorial Guinea, Honduras, Switzerland, Laos, Sri Lanka. Just don't do it, because then you'll get on the Japan What podcast as
Stupid Goddamn of the week. Stupid Goddamn, SGOTW.
And that's going to be the podcast for today. Please remember to go to MatthewPMBigelow.com for all of your podcasting needs. Until next time, everybody, I bid the very warmful and heartful Ja Mata.